Hello everyone, I am One Bird, and today's video we're going to be looking at the Shoreline Hidden Stash Run. I'm going to take you through what I think the best Shoreline Hidden Stash Run is, the best route, and we're going to have a look at some of the loots over 10 Shoreline Stash Runs. I've got pictures of all the loot. I'm going to give you the average amount of cash we get from it, and you're going to be able to work out whether it's worth your time to do a Shoreline Stash Run. There's 40 hidden stashes on Shoreline. Make sure you know where they all are, because sometimes you'll spawn in a different area and you can hit like 1 or 2 stashes on before you get onto the main route. If you need to know where those stashes are, I did a video locating every single hidden stash on Shoreline, so make sure you check that out. If you're having trouble finding any of the stashes, that is the video for you. Generally, you spawn on either the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the map, and that's the great thing about the route I've got for you. It doesn't matter where you spawn, you can do the same route. It's reversible either way. We hit 24 stashes, and that seems to be around about the sweet spot. Honestly, having done a Shoreline Hidden Stash Run this wide probably about 50, maybe even more than 50 times, the best number of stashes to hit is somewhere between 10 and 20. Once you hit a certain amount of stashes, no matter what kind of backpack size you've got, even if you've got the hugest ones you can find, you're going to run out of space at some point. Honestly, hitting more than 20 is going to start to become unfruitful, so there's no point in even aiming for it. Most people think that the best way is to actually go up north and go through Rock Passage, but honestly, the safest path is actually over the southern lookout, just south of the resort. It's the least traveled path. It's got a ton of cover. There's no real snipers around the area that can hit you. The problem with Rock Passage is there's some decent overwatch positions into the area, so you can have snipers on either side of Rock Passage. There's a sniper scav there. There's a scav spawn there as well. So if you start shooting those scavs and you don't have a suppressor, you're going to start making noise. You're going to start alerting people that you're in that area. It's also a bit of a funnel coming over that bridge at Rock Passage. You know, you haven't really got many options. You've got to go over that bridge. It's a tight space and there's nowhere else you can go. If you get caught on that bridge, you can't go left, you can't go right. You've either got to continue going, or you've got to turn around and go back. You're in no man's land. Whereas going across the southern lookout is much less traveled. There is a little bit of a choke point there over the actual lookout area itself, but prior to that and after that, there's so much cover from trees, and there's not really a sniper position overlooking that. The best place overlooking the area would be from the resort itself, but anyone that's going to the resort is going into the resort. They're not going to be worried about somebody in the southern lookout area. They're actually going into the resort. They're worried about players in the resort. They're going to be fighting with each other, PvP in the east and west wing, trying to get that high level loot. So number one tip for you, if you're doing the Shoreline Hidden Stash Run, forget going north over North Passage or Rock Passage. Forget it. Go across the southern lookout area. I guarantee you it's a much safer route. Right, now let's talk about the loot. The values that I'm going to put to it are purely sales to the traders. So I'm putting no flea market values in here whatsoever. So these are going to be the minimum amounts you are going to receive from these stash runs. A lot of the time, people that are going to be watching the videos and are going to want to be doing these Shoreline stash runs are often going to be sub level 20. So you won't have access to the flea market. That means that the values that I'm giving you, you are definitely going to get these values. So I did 10 hidden stash runs. I'm not going to show you all of them. I'm going to show you the 3 worst and the 3 best. And then we're going to give you an average. You can decide whether the Shoreline Hidden Stash Run is for you. We've got the worst run out of the 10 Shoreline Stash runs that I completed. Run number 1 came to 231,000 rubles. I hit 13 stashes. I wasn't really concerning myself exactly what we got out of the stashes. I was trying to just take as much as possible. I think the problem with this run is I got 3 submachine guns and 2 pistols, and at the end of the day, they don't make you a lot of money. This also kind of made me quite heavy, and picking up the car battery as well, I got very heavy with the car battery, which meant I think there were a couple of stashes that I left behind, and I just decided to head to the exit after 13. Overall, not that impressive a run and stands at the worst. Let's move on from that though. We'll go on to the second worst run. This run we made out with 254,604 rubles. We did pick out the Mark 47 and we also picked up the Thor armor. So if you're not running level 4 armor, that was a decent pickup. The thermometer and the book sell to therapists for a decent amount of cash, and there's a decent foregrip in there as well. 254,000, we earned more than run number 1, but this time we only hit 8 stashes. I think what happened here is there were quite a few stashes that were already taken by the time we got there. So there was probably a stash runner going in the opposite direction or further ahead of me on the route. So I missed out on quite a few stashes here. 254,000 though from only 8 stashes. I think if we could have hit more, then it could have been a really nice juicy total. But still, 8 stashes, 20 minutes worth of work, reasonable. Moving on to the third worst run of the 10. We got out 275,000 rubles from this run, and that's including the blacked out armor as well. I actually picked that up, I dumped my armor which was on insurance, and then I got into a fight and my armor got zeroed. Luckily I managed to make it out alive though. But if you look at this run, there's nothing that special in there. I would say that the filter that we got out sells for a hell of a lot more on the flea market. There's a lot of food items in there. There's some toolbox items that just don't sell to a lot to the traders. So overall, the third worst run in there. And the number of stashes we hit to get that total, you're going to be surprised. 20 stashes. So we just really had a bad time of it. And look at the difference. We hit 8 stashes, 254k. We hit 20 stashes, 275k. It does show that sometimes hitting a larger number of stashes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more cash. There's a certain point where if you continue to hit more and more stashes, you're not going to make any more cash. So once you've hit 10 stashes, think about what you've got in that inventory, because sometimes it might just be better to cut and run straight for the exit. Now let's have a look at the top 3 runs. Run with the third highest amount of rubles, run number 6, 357,000 rubles. When you look at it, it doesn't look over the top special, but there are more items there than in the past. The Black Rock sells really well, and picking up the 2 TV rigs allows more storage space in the backpack, so you can cram in some extra stuff. We hit 10 stashes in total, so we didn't hit more stashes, we just were able to get more stuff in our backpack. We also got the GP coin and the 2 dorm keys. Dorm 214 I believe sells around about 28k, so there's around 60k just in those 2 keys. Now I was considering whether to include it or not because they're not directly out of stashes, but when you're doing hidden stash runs, if there's a jacket right next to you, or if you kill a scav on the way, it's not like you're going to ignore those scavs. You are just going to go up and have a look and loot them. If there's something good in there, you are going to take it. It happened on the course of my run, so I did include it in the total. The second most highest run was run number 5. 391,000 rubles in this run. We hit 18 stashes, so we did hit considerably more stashes. The Comtax, the Swordins, the Black Rock sells really well. We also picked up the red gunpowder, pressure gauge, morphine, coffee beans, SAS, sugar, sodium. They all sell really well. So run number 5, 18 stashes compared to run number 6 where we hit 10. We got out less stuff out of those stashes. You're not always guaranteed to get more stuff just because you hit more stashes. This is what I'm saying about the sweet spot, and we'll come on to this in a moment, because the highest best run of all 10 runs was run number 4. We got almost 450,000 rubles out of this stash run, and this is just selling to traders, remember. We're not taking into account any flea market sales, just pure sales to traders. And it's not hard to see why when you run through what we got out. The tac sports, helmet, the TK heavy trooper, the Aplete, the MDR, pistol, AKS-74UN, the armor, the diary, propane. And then if you add the flea market prices on top, I think I worked out at the time that if I sold those items on the flea, there was over 600,000 on the flea. And then on top of that, what you're not seeing in this picture is inside that MDR, there are 15 rounds of M61 ammunition that sells for around about 48,000 on the flea. So another circa 50k. So you're talking 600 to 650k when you take into account sales on the flea market. So when other videos are out there saying you can make 600k on the Shoreline stash runs, you can make 600k on the Shoreline stash runs. But if you can't sell to the flea market, you're not really going to make that much. You're going to make on average 300 to 320,000 per run. The average over all 10 runs was 320,000 rubles. We hit an average of 14 stashes, and the average run takes around about 27 minutes to complete. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoy stash running, if you love the Shoreline stash run, let me know. It's really been a great source of income for me. Early wipe. I really enjoy stash running, and I'm going to try and do more maps in the future. I'm also going to extend it not just to stash running. We're going to look at different areas on maps, and we're going to try and put a value on it to see whether it's worth your time looting those areas. So one video coming up will be the Shoreline Village, and then we're going to move on to woods as well and other maps, and hopefully we're going to build up a little bit of a picture on what areas are worth what when you're talking about loot and trying to gain rubles in this game. Thanks very much for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos, comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. I am One Bird. Hopefully I will see you soon.